The New World Order is one of the most terrifying yet important topics we are all ever going to see in our lifetimes. With its presence being seemingly a secret for so long, in recent times the uncovering of what is now known to be a contender in the most scary organization in history is upon us. Being undercover and unknown for generations, the scope behind the New World Order is larger and more terrifying than people who even know of its existence are willing to admit. To put into perspective just how much reach it has over the world, some of its responsibilities lie in the remit of the WEF, or World Economic Forum, renowned for being the most hated organization on Earth. A board of unelected elites seemingly with control over any and all decisions across the direction of humanity, filled with egos of stubborn individuals that are hell-bent on absolute control amongst the general populace. In fact, the subject is so touchy that in some cases merely mentioning it has led to certain instances of people completely shifting their mentality, or in some cases even disappearing. And of course, merely mentioning this dreaded organization means this video will likely be demonetized and shadow banned by YouTube, but thankfully Stoic Markets, my email newsletter, is a solution to that problem, linked down below in the bio. Nothing good has ever come out of the organization, yet their reach grows ever more concerning by the day, with their recent contributor Linda Yaccarina being appointed the CEO of Twitter. That certainly could indicate the end of free speech on the platform once again. They were also the begrudging force behind the COVID lockdowns. Remember when everyone was instructed to stay inside for the betterment of their health? The New World Order was in the shadows, pulling strings on how the entire pandemic played out, pushing it in the direction of both their own satisfaction as well as the most advantageous from a monetary gain. Pharmaceutical companies generated billions with the pandemic, and many of those billions went straight to the people on the board of the WEF, who just so happened to be on the boards of these major pharmaceutical companies. Now, is this a coincidence, or is it all linked together in an expansive web? The most recent actions of the New World Order over the last few years has surrounded a push for CBDCs, or central bank digital currencies. This would introduce a new currency amongst the Western world, eradicating all forms of cash and introducing a method of payment that could be tracked and traced absolutely and in its entirety, meaning the government would be able to see how much you're spending and where all your money is going. This may seem helpful at first sight, what with no risk of losing money, being scammed, or getting benefits when you don't deserve it, but in reality it opens us up to a playground of unimaginable terror. A society in which cash can be completely controlled. Should you want to protest in the street against a new law being passed, the government would be able to tag you, find your digital mark, and simply restrict how much you're able to spend and on what. Suddenly, protesters' cash doesn't work when they buy a train ticket into the nearest city. Suddenly, their bank cards don't work when going through toll roads into an area the government doesn't want them. Overweight people would be restricted to how much food they can buy. Everyday shoppers could be restricted on how much meat they're able to buy in aid of climate change, of course. Ultimately, the WEF and its governments would have free reign over what you are able to spend your money on, giving them absolute control over your life with no privacy whatsoever. And if that wasn't enough, not only are they introducing a way to control your money, but also a method to restrict the freedom of civilians with the introduction of 15-minute cities. It would ensure that people in society would never have to leave their homes or areas, as everything they could possibly need for survival would be within 15 minutes. Shops, schools, utilities, all within walking distance. Again, on the surface level, that seems harmless and actually quite helpful, but when you understand the overbearing narrative of control the New World Order injects into their every move, it suddenly becomes very concerning. Because it isn't actually a case of not needing to go 15 minutes away from your home, it's a case of not being allowed to. All of these examples and measures being put in place are an agenda coming from the New World Order, all under the illusion of safety and convenience, whilst truly being about control. All this information is public knowledge, and yet the mainstream media still refuse to report on it to this day. The only question you have to ask is why? Why do they still claim that the Great Reset is a conspiracy theory when the WEF have a webpage describing exactly what they mean by it? What are they hiding from you? And if you're tired of being lied to, then sign up to my 100% free email newsletter, Stoic Markets, for financial news the mainstream media is terrified of. We know they can't be trusted to tell the truth, so isn't it about time you freed your mind and found a new source of information that isn't bought and paid for by the powers at be? Now, there is a silver lining here. Despite all the terror they are causing and chaos they are inciting for years to come, their downfall is on the horizon. The reason for this is not from a power perspective, a money perspective, or even a progress perspective. All their agendas are still in motion and making progress as you read this, but the thing that is inevitably going to be their demise comes from an attention perspective. People, eyes, decentralized media, all are slowly beginning to shine the light on this organization and uncover its wrongdoings. That's their biggest crux. For all these years, they've been able to mold the future with seemingly no resistance. When owning all the media, they are able to filter which stories in the world get through and leave out the ones which would be detrimental to the general populace to find out. With the likes of social media being able to contain all the information leaks is nigh on impossible. As a result, people are beginning to be introduced to their methods and lights are being shone on their activities. The likes of world-renowned billionaire Bill Gates are now being demonized for his activities in the farmland crisis. Buying up 240,000 acres of farmland across America makes him the largest private landowner in the States. Now, why would he do this? Well, a cynical mind might say he wants to control the country's food supply, but I would never dare say something like that, or else YouTube will threaten me and my channel. But if you want to see what I actually think about that, then check out Stoic Markets, the 100% free newsletter, both in cost to you and censorship on me, with the link down below in the description. But with this all being brought to light, he is under fire for the findings of this activity, and he's receiving a ton of criticism, not only making people less inclined to trust him, but also opening their eyes to what other possible tasks the New World Order have going on. But it's not only the wealthiest people on Earth, it's also the largest banks and corporations as well. JP Morgan is now under fire for buying up $500 million worth of forests in Alaska, only to blackmail the government for environment points. Basically, they're saying, give us money every year because we're helping the environment by not cutting down all these trees we own, even though they were never going to be cut down before we bought them up. Oh, and by the way, if you don't give us money, we will cut down all these trees. Something that 30 years ago would likely have never even been discovered by the average person and certainly never spoken about by anyone who doesn't work for JP Morgan is now getting people talking about horrendous something like what they're doing is. And of course, there wouldn't be any notoriety without mentioning BlackRock, the world-spanning corporation committing an untold number of mischiefs under our noses. One example, of course, being the backlash they received after buying up thousands of homes across America and pricing out ordinary people of ever being able to buy their own home. Literal entire neighborhoods in America were being bought up by BlackRock in an attempt to turn them into another massive source of income, but this is now common knowledge, and the backlash BlackRock received was so monumental and huge that they had no choice but to abandon this project and announce an end to their home buying escapades. With all this going on, it's unbearably obvious to everyone with eyes to know that what's going on is bad news, and it's only going to get worse as time goes on. But with more and more people understanding and educating themselves about the New World Order, two distinct things are going to happen. The first is being that they are going to get away with less. Of course, they will continue to try, but they will have to be more subtle. Unfortunately, the other side of this is that they are going to start speeding up their plans. For that reason, I have to go over this script with a magnifying glass and ensure that I don't trigger any potential red flags, warnings, or even banishments. There are literally parts of this video that I've had to erase from the finished product because it would put my channel on the firing range, leading to me getting deleted. This will always be the way things are, which is a shame, but the information I can't keep in this video isn't being thrown away altogether. In fact, I make sure to deliberately keep it. The reason being is that I can put it straight into the Stoic Markets newsletter and have absolutely free reign. Since the newsletter isn't owned by any corporations, it gives me the ability to truly give you the laundry list of information that wouldn't see this channel even in its darkest days. The only way I can ensure that you get the full picture of what's really going on is via the newsletter. I can't prepare you for the worst in these videos. All the hideous talking points have to be censored. The list of names I drop combined with the borderline terror I reveal in the newsletter is the best option to protecting yourself from what's to come. You get all the information you need to remain safe before anyone else, because trust me, you won't find it on YouTube, and that's by design. One click down below will sign you up and keep you in the loop. It's 100% free and you can unsubscribe anytime you want no strings attached. This is a truly amazing opportunity for those that are truly interested to read what I can't say here. So if you're that person, check out Stoic Markets and I'll unveil to you the truths you never even knew you needed. Now, to further prove what's happening is true, it can be shown in real time how much the WEF are doing their absolute best to censor the general public from having any idea on what's happening in the real world. In a recent meeting with Berkshire Hathaway shareholders, renowned billionaire and serial investor Warren Buffett was on the panel answering questions about finance. That was until someone on the mic asked him, "You donate loads of money to Bill Gates, yes?" Even though he was good friends with Epstein, and of course the microphone was taken off him and he was kicked out of the event, which begs the question, why not just let Buffett dismantle such an allegation? He's clearly convinced that Bill Gates is a good man despite his connection with such an awful man. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that Bill Gates was just exposed as having an affair with a young Russian girl. Coincidentally, Epstein had funded that girl's education. Clearly nothing to see here at all. You see, even entertaining the matter is a problem to the WEF. People even hearing about the allegations going on between them and their co-founders is an issue which they are struggling to contain. Now, you can find that clip of Warren being asked this question, his reaction, but it's not easy and I can't risk putting it on my channel or you'll risk never seeing this video at all. But why is that even the case? Well, simple, because even the public seeing another one of their own speak up about an issue will begin a subconscious sense of questioning in themselves, and that's all it takes to wake someone up to what's happening. What the WEF fears the most is this spreading it to numbers in which they are simply unable to combat. Should millions of people understand what they are up to and their plans, it would start a revolution and collapse society as we know it today, and as it happens, that's what just might be on its way. This year alone, these mega shadow corporations have been uncovered in depth. With the French revolutionaries storming into BlackRock's HQ, it was a big statement to show we know who they are and we know what they're up to. Not to mention how footage of this event was nowhere to be found on the mainstream media, but all from individuals on social media. The days of these corporations and figures like it are on a race to the end, with more and more people finding out about them, more attention being on them, and more controversy surrounding them. They are in a frenzy like never before, and it's only going to get worse. I've only scraped the top of the cake with this video. As mentioned, the main ingredients cannot be discussed here or I will get banned, but you can find them in the Stoic Markets newsletter where I go in depth on this topic. But should you not want to join me there, trust me, something big is coming and you're going to be thankful you knew about it ahead of time. So check out the link down below and open your eyes for free.